Call this meeting back to order. We're returned from lunch. Where we left off, commissioners, was item number 8 under tab C, which is the approval to transfer funds between ARPA coronavirus state and local fiscal recovery projects. With us this afternoon is County Grants Manager Christina Marshall again. Turn it back to you, Christina.
Good afternoon, everyone.
I said Marshall again.
Christina without a T, Marshall again.
That's right.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, on May 3rd, 2022, back a couple of years ago, the Sweetwater County Commission approved $120,000 in ARPA coronavirus state and local recovery funds for the door lock expansion project. It was carried over into the approved fiscal year 2024 budget. So the door lock project consists of adding at least 17 doors to the existing door central system that will improve efficiencies and safety at the county's government buildings. So there are several ARPA local recovery projects that have already been completed and under budget. After going out to bid, the door lock project is over budget. At the last meeting, you actually awarded bid for this project. I neglected to get this on the agenda, but we had discussed this in-house that we had the funding. So this request consists of transferring funding from the ARPA general government vehicles and detention center projects that are closed to the door lock expansion project. So I have provided a summary for you where shortfall is $45,337. Again, this is more of a housekeeping. And unfortunately, approval of this request will not increase our allocation. So we're just moving money around. There is no document to sign in your packet. I wanted to give you just a summary of where we are in that brown and gold chart for Wyoming. And the dark brown in the middle, items number 8 and 10 is where we would pull the money from. It's just over that 45,000. There's 45,505 available. I am working with our purchasing director about which projects are closing. Normally, we expect to have everything closed out soon. You may recall in last year's budget, item 16, the salaries and benefits for the detention center was kind of a catch-all of remaining funding. And I am following that closely to see if it all gets expended in fiscal year 24. If not, you'll see me during the budget session for fiscal year 25, but this is where we're at.
Very good. Thanks, Christina. Always descriptive as usual and organized. Makes it really easy to follow along. I really can't express how much we appreciate that up here, especially after a stacked agenda. Any questions on this transfer, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve and authorize the transfer of $45,337 in ARPA coronavirus state and local recovery funds to the door lock expansion project.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. We've got a second by Commissioner Toman. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along into item number 9, we've got an approval to submit a fiscal year 25-26 community prevention grant program application. With us still is Christina, along with, I believe, Laura Schmidt-Pizzato online, Manager of Recovery Services for Southwest Counseling, along with Shay Haney and Jason Lux, the Community Prevention Specialists. Welcome.
Okay, so Sweetwater County is eligible to apply for a 2-year community prevention grant through the Wyoming Department of Health, Public Health Division. There is no required cash match, and if approved, the funding would be passed through to Southwest Counseling Service. So the purpose of this community prevention grant program is to implement data-driven and evidence-based substance abuse and suicide prevention plans. that positively impacts substance abuse and mental health in our community. It addresses Wyoming's top public health prevention priorities. So in Wyoming, the top priorities are underage alcohol, youth marijuana use, alcohol or adult overconsumption of alcohol, tobacco use, opioid prescription drug misuse, abuse, and other drugs, and suicide prevention. So Southwest Counseling Service has implemented this grant for the last 6 years and submitted an update strategic work plan through June 30th, 2026. So again, it's a biennium grant. Their proposal addresses key prevention needs in Sweetwater County. I emphasize that is specific to Sweetwater County. So high social availability of alcohol, favorable attitude towards substance abuse, vaping prevalence among youth, and suicide. So the total 2-year budget is $468,806.79. I've provided you with a breakdown by cost category. The budget covers 2 full-time employees that are with us or at 95% with the benefits, equipment and supplies, operational supports, website and social media, community presence, coalition or community coalitions and workforce development, and then of course the community prevention service implementation strategies. And then they're allowed to collect what we call indirect costs on grants. That's an allowable 10% kind of discretionary to implement the grant or oversee it. So some notes. Southwest Counseling Service is ineligible to apply directly for this grant. I cannot emphasize enough how complex it is. It has multiple funding sources that have to be itemized in our audit. The grant is included in our audit and compliance report. So you might have 3 or 4 federal grants that have 4 different requirements. Staff requested Southwest Counseling to submit a plan to increase coalition participation due to low participation last biennium. And one other note is normally I advertise a request for proposals to give equitable opportunity to any organization who wants to be considered. The state actually did not announce the availability of this funding to me. They only contacted them. So we had a long discussion with the Department of Health to improve their methods going forward. I know Mr. Chairman's not happy about this. He does not get to sign the certificate of authorization form for this application. In your packet, you have that certificate of authorization. And then this is also followed by the coalition plan that was submitted. And again, I wanted to see an increase in participation from community stakeholders. So you could see that on their mailing list or email list, they have 73 members, of which only 6 regularly attend. So we'd like to see an increase of participation with community members and stakeholders. And they list 4 ways of how they're going to increase that. Next in your packet, you have the restricted activities. So when we apply for grants, you probably are aware that we can't just go shopping and do whatever we want. So there are restricted activities. The funding, you would not believe how complicating the reimbursements are, because for every, like, let's say advertisement or ad campaign, you split it by a percentage of which category of strategy it addresses. It is a nightmare administratively. So, but I do want to point out something very serious, and I'm going to let the real specialists take over after that. But in the back, you do have part of their abstract. So I'm looking at page 1 of their abstract, and this is our community. And I want to read some of the data that influence their proposed strategies. So one, and again, these are key prevention strategies in Sweetwater County. They've identified that there is a high social availability of alcohol. So 44.71% of the polled 10th graders got their last drink from their parents. There's a favorable attitude towards substance abuse. Of the 703 total custodial arrests in 2022, 58.61% involved alcohol. Alcohol was involved in 70.37% of resisting arrest charges, 53.23% of domestic violence arrests, and 26.92% of assault arrests. Another point in their strategy is vaping prevalence among youth. 21.12% of Sweetwater County 10th graders vaped in the last month.
I did mess that one up, so that's actually 16.15, I believe. That 21 is the statewide one, so.
Okay. Okay. And then the last point, unfortunately, suicide. In 2023, there were 15 suicides in Sweetwater County, and that rate in Sweetwater County is more than twice the 2022 national suicide rate. So unfortunately, there is a need in Sweetwater County for prevention strategies. I'm happy to answer any questions regarding our portion at the county of sponsoring this grant. Otherwise, I'll let Shay and Jason add anything else they want.
Thanks, Christina. Commissioner Tillman.
How do you measure how many people were really helped?
So Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Tolman, are you looking at the outcomes then
Yeah.
of how effective their strategies are?
Are they going to address that? Are you?
Well, it's hard to measure, but I'll let them answer that.
Any other questions for Christina first, commissioners? Go ahead, guys.
So Chairman and Commissioners, just to address that first one, it's kind of a mix between, so we do measure as things drop. So for example, although that vaping rate is high, it has been dropping since 2018. So measuring those change levels, for media, we measure the impact. So how many people see media, how many people actually go to the sites that we're recommending. For more direct strategies like medication lock boxes, we measure how many we actually hand out, how many people we train. But yeah, measuring it can be really complex because we're trying to measure what doesn't happen. So it can be difficult, but we do have different metrics that we could share with you if you want more specific things. But we'd have to look at our records for that. So.
Thank you.
Is some of that indicated by just the annual statistics, like what was just shared year over year versus?
Yeah, so we have every 2 years, there's a P&A. So that's through the school districts, prevention needs assessment. That's a big one with our youth. Then the alcohol stuff comes from law enforcement typically. So yeah, a lot of it is annual. And then we try and measure and evaluate our own programs as far as like giving surveys after trainings and things like that.
Any other questions or feedback, commissioners? It sounds complex as far as the reporting aspect of that goes. I think this is one they've had in the past, right? That you've helped manage, Christina, is that right?
So Mr. Chairman, I don't want to take any credit. Southwest Counseling does all the heavy lifting with this one. So
Okay.
I mean, on my end, they submit reimbursements to me. I go through it, then I submit it on to the state, and that's the proper order.
Okay.
But I did want to mention that Laura Schmidt-Pizzato's with us online in case she also wanted to add anything.
Thanks for that. Sometimes I don't look up. Laura, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Thank you, Chairman West and Commissioners. Sorry, I'm not with you. I'm actually in St. Louis for a Certified Community Behavioral Health Center conference for a grant that we have, a different grant. I just want to say that prevention is super important for our continuum of care in the county. Obviously, we have a lot of treatment options. Prevention is the other cog in the wheel that needs to happen for both mental health and substance use disorders. And again, this is money directly from the state. It passes through the county. We have to spend it on evidence-based practices. The reason that we have both of these individuals only at 95% FTE is so that 5% of their time can be spent doing other things that maybe the state doesn't see as exactly evidence-based, but that we can pay for from Southwest Counseling funds that are really needed and something different that needs to happen in our community without jeopardizing the evidence-based practice part of the grant. But other than that, I don't really have anything else. And thank you for your time today.
Very good. Thank you. It looks a little nicer there than here, so enjoy that down there. Any other feedback, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Slaughter.
I'm not sure who to direct this to. It might be to Laura. In the grant budget, under subsection F, it shows community prevention service implementation for $158,000. And just so I could learn a little bit more about it, what would that type of service implementation actually detail be? What type of actions are you actually performing under that?
Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Slaughter, just for the record, that was like a gigantic spreadsheet with 12 tabs, and I decided not to
Sure.
print it up for you.
No, I just curious as to what it would be.
So that handout I gave you guys,
Uh-huh.
it goes through. So there's these different categories. Those are 5 categories that we work with. Each one has several strategies under it. These just have a key highlight of the strategies we're working on. So we do things like media. We also have different trainings. We do medication lockbox giveaways. We do intervention classes at the schools. So it's a pretty wide variety. And if you want to know more about a specific category, I could go into more detail with that. But this kind of gives you some highlights of.
Okay, yeah, I had looked at it and I wasn't sure that was how it would have applied, but just trying to wrap my hands around this a little bit to get a little better
Yeah,
understanding.
and so for that budget item, it's the direct costs associated with these
Each of these.
categories that is approved by Wyoming Department of Health.
Thank you.
Any other feedback? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the submission of a fiscal year 25-26 Community Prevention Grant Program application for Southwest Counseling Service and authorize the grants manager to sign the certificate of authorization.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Christina and Laura and Shay and Jason for coming over today. Job well done.
And if you want, I'm happy to email you that spreadsheet. It's very fascinating, all the ad campaigns, all the different strategies all year long. So, or come in my office and visit me for once, okay?
Sounds riveting.
Good luck. Hopefully it has a tremendous impact on the community and we can help with some of those statistics. So keep up the good work. Next, commissioners, is item number 10 under tab C, which is the approval for the chairman to sign the contract with Summit Fire and Security for the door lock expansion project. With us this afternoon is Purchasing Director Marty Dernovich. Good afternoon, Marty.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I apologize. At the last meeting, when you awarded that, we usually ask for the authorization for the chairman to sign documents, and that went right over my head. So I'm here today. The contract has been approved by legal counsel. It has been signed by Summit Fire. They got it back to me late last night. So I'm just here today to get authorization for the board chairman to sign the contract so we can get this project underway.
Thanks, Marty. Questions? Not, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the chairman to sign the contract with Summit Fire and Security for the door lock expansion project as presented.
Mr. Chairman, I would make the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next is item number 11. We've got the award of burial service for indigent residents and unidentified human remains. Back with us is Purchasing Director Marty Durnovich. I believe our County Coroner Dale Mahanovich has joined us online.
I was gonna say
Afternoon, Dale.
Dale was hoping to join online.
I made it, yeah.
So commissioners, before you, what we've sent out, Dale had approached me to send out for proposals for indigent care of residents plus unidentified human remains. That is up to the coroner if this comes to pass in Sweetwater County. It's up to the coroner to bury or of a resident. So this one's a tough one for me because you can ask Dale, I don't even like to go to the funeral home. So when they first asked me to do this, I said, you want me to do what? Anyways, so we put together a bid document, sent it out to the two local funeral homes here in Sweetwater County. We received one response back. We did ask for this price to be guaranteed from April 17th through January 31st of 2025. We got one response back from Fox Funeral Home and Crematory. For cremation services, it's $750. And for burial service, it's $2,495. And there'll be an additional charge if we need certified death certificates, Wyoming certified death certificates.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Richards.
Marty, last year we adopted a resolution dealing with indigent funeral expenses. Is this in relation to that resolution or is this a separate
No.
animal? And I know Mr. Mahanovich.
You want me to step in?
Yes,
Please
please.
do, Dale.
Yeah, actually, that was for just dealing with funeral homes. That's for individuals that die in a nursing home, hospital, whatnot. Coroner's cases come in there separate. We did this for years. I used to have an indigent burial line item and we quit doing it because we never used it. But this is dealing specifically with coroner's cases. If I have an individual that's died that's under my jurisdiction by statute, it's up to the commissioners to handle that. The one you're speaking of was dealing with funeral homes. If they die in a nursing home, if they die in the hospital and whatnot. Does it make sense?
Makes sense. I just saw an overlap of language there and didn't want to.
It's similar,
Get us
but
out in the weeds.
Yeah.
Any other questions, commissioners? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve Fox Funeral Home and Crematory for these services for the specified time. Hang on, let me redo that. I was reading the suggested action to approve the Fox Funeral Home and Crematory for the award of the burial service for indigent resident and unidentified human remains as presented.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
Marty, and
commissioners.
thanks, Dale.
Thank
Dale.
you. Appreciate it.
Moving right along, commissioners, this brings us to item number 12, which is the award of the fiscal year 2024 CMAQ Dust Control Project. With us this afternoon is Public Works Director Gene Legursky. I'll hand it over to you. Good
Thank
afternoon,
you,
Gene.
Chairman West. How are you? What you have before you is the award of our 2024 CMAQ Dust Control Project. As you were aware, last year, we did not do a dust control project because of getting a late start with the contract from YDOT. So we're actually combining, you guys already approved 23. We're combining 2023, 2024, and doing some dust control underneath our thing. All of this is paid through fuel tax with the 2024 being a match from YDOT. So it's a good deal. We're doing all our normal roads and added a couple more roads that we haven't done for a couple of years. So we only had one bidder. There's typically two people that do it. And on the last moment, the last one called up and said, hey, I don't have time to bid this. So we went with the one bidder. It was actually a good price like they always give us. So no concerns.
Very good. Thanks, Gene. Questions on this award, commissioners?
One other thing, we did receive concurrence this morning from YDOT to be able to award it. So
Okay. With no questions, I'd entertain a motion to award the CMAQ project to the Dustbusters Enterprises Incorporated in the amount of $748,914 and authorize the chairman to sign all necessary documents.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along to item 13 is the award of the fiscal year 2024 paint striping project. We'll hand it back to Gene.
thank you. What this is our annual paint striping project on all the county roads. I would like to say that this came in a lot lower than we had because engineering is getting a lot better at our prices. However, we did cut out 18.5 miles of road on this because we're going to chip seal that in a project that I'll bring forward to you guys hopefully in May. And that paint striping for those chip sealed roads will actually be underneath that because we didn't think we could combine the two projects and actually get them done. It just won't work out with contractors. So that's actually pulled out. So when you actually do look at the award letter, it's a lot less than last year, but that's because we're missing that 18.5 miles. Other than that, we were happy with the bids. We actually had one bid come in late that we could not open. So we actually had 3 bidders, which is a lot better than the last couple of years where we've only had 1. So.
Very good. Questions, commissioners? Not, I'd entertain a motion to award the fiscal year 2024 paint striping project to S&L Industrial Incorporated in the sum of $289,000.44, excuse me, and authorize the chairman to sign all necessary project documents.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Slaughter. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
Just to clarify, that's $289,044.00.
Did I say that wrong? I kind of coughed. Sorry.
Cough in the middle.
It's been a long day.
Allergies. Yeah, 289,044, correct. We do have a motion and a second on the table. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Next is item number 14, the contract for professional services between Sweetwater County and Plan One Architects for architectural services to multipurpose rooms with the Sweetwater County Libraries as approved through Federal Award ID CPFFN 0188. And we'll hand it back to Gene.
Thank you, Chairman West. What this is, and I want, excuse me, want to make a note. Christina's keeping me on my toes. She's always checking my work, which I really appreciate. The actual name of the contract that we have is different than the title I told you. It's actually Sweetwater County Library Systems Multiple Facilities Upgrade. There's multiple rooms and multiple facilities. You guys have already approved the MOU last commission meeting, so we're catching up with the contract through Plan One. All the numbers have checked out, and we'll go forward with this if you guys approve.
Questions, commissioners? Not, I'd entertain a motion to award the architectural services contract to Plan One Architects in the amount of $124,675 and allow the chairman to sign all necessary documents.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. We made it to the back page.
I'm trying my best to keep you guys ahead of schedule.
We're doing good. Next is item number 15, the award of County Road 6 Approach Patch Project. And we'll turn it back to Gene.
What this is late last year, excuse me, we noticed that the OCI approach going on to 372 was starting to rut and degrade fairly heavily. A lot of truck traffic in and out of there. It's the last, as you're approaching the cattle guard right there at 372 and then onto 372 in the driving lane as you're going out. It's a lot of dynamic loading, a lot of stopping, a lot of braking, a lot of acceleration. So the asphalt's been heaved and rutted for 6 to 8 inches in some areas. So we need to correct that approach. What we did, and we've reached out to 2 different contractors, and Andy built the section, and we sent a plan set that you guys have in front of you. Just to go with that, it's over the allowable limit that I can do with with what you guys have allowed me to do. So I figured I'd bring it forward to you guys to see if you guys want to do this. This will all be paid through fuel tax money. We sent it out to the 2 contractors in the county that can actually do paving and patching projects. So we feel that we covered everything that way.
Very good. Thanks, Gene. Any questions on this award, commissioners?
If you guys have any doubt that projects are getting cheaper, asphalt oil based on this has went up from $680 a ton to over $1,400 this year. Lucky it's only 6% of the total cost of asphalt. So if you guys are thinking that everything's tempering out, it's not. Sorry.
I love hyperinflation.
Yep.
With no questions, I'd entertain a motion to award the County Road 6 Approach Patch Project to R&D Sweeping and Asphalt Maintenance LLC in the amount of $72,367 and allow the Public Works Director to sign the estimate, or excuse me, the quote, and initiate the work.
So moved.
Chairman. Oh,
Got a motion by Commissioner Slaughter, second by Commissioner Toman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along is item number 16, a contract between Western EGI and Sweetwater County for professional engineering services on County Road 1, the McKinnon Road. And we'll hand it back to Gene.
What this is the first phase of the project that was relayed in the study that we reviewed last 2 weeks ago. And we also presented to the public down in McKinnon. This is the engineering to put a plan set out and actually do the construction management on 8 to 10 frost heaves down in the McKinnon area. This was already budgeted previously in this last year's budget through fuel tax and also the engineering and design services. What we're planning on doing is putting this out, looking at closing the road for a specific amount of time, usually from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, Monday through Saturday, route everybody around and then open it back up. This will allow us to get it done faster. We will be doing all the front end documents in-house. They will be providing all the specific technical documents and then the drawings, and then also out there watching the contractor. There's about 30 days of construction in this. We will try to get it accelerated as fast as possible, just depending on what we see. We're going to hopefully jump on this right after school stops and get it done before school starts. And what we'll do is we'll have within the contract, we'll have a specific amount of days. As soon as you start, you have to get it done in that amount of time.
Very good. Thanks, Gene. Questions on the contract with Western EGI, commissioners? Not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the contract between Western EGI and Sweetwater County for professional engineering services on County Road 1, the McKinnon Road, and the amount of $77,165, and allow the chairman to sign all necessary documents.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Toman,
I would make the motion.
we do have a motion to approve by Commissioner Toman. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Slaughter. Any discussion?
Island's got his pound of flesh ready.
What's that?
Island's got his pound of flesh ready.
Oh. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Moving right along, about 30 minutes ahead of schedule here. Thanks, Gene. We've got item number 17, resolutions designating and enrolling certain county roads as open to off-highway vehicle travel. And we'll hand it back to Gene.
Okay, thank you. And like Chairman West said, there's 2 different versions of this resolution in there for discussion. Commissioner Jones met with everybody last Thursday, Danny Aramosby, John DeLeon, Under Sheriff Tomich, Sheriff Grossnickel, myself, and Andy, and we got together to try to figure out how best to serve what's going on and what Scorp and everything in their surrounding counties have done. What we did is we presented 2 different resolutions to you, one a short form one a short long form one that actually spells out everything that you would have to go back basically and look in the state statutes to find out. We can discuss it first. I do have some concerns about this. I'll be completely honest, that I've shared with Commissioner Jones. One of the things is I think we have different types of road use within the county. To be honest with you, we have a lot of road use within Flaming Gorge, Siskiyou, on the western side that are recreational in nature, majority of it. You get out from Tipton, Patrick Draw, Bitter Creek, all the way out to Wamsutter. You're looking at a lot of industrial traffic, higher volume counts, higher speeds. I call it the lug nut rule, bigger lug nuts, more lug nuts, the heavier the truck traffic is. Wamsutter North at times has 900 semis a day on it. And it's hard for me personally, to say, hey, what are we doing here? Are we messing with something? One of the things that, in reading the state statutes, and Andy and John did a very good job of going through all of them and seeing what they are, is that we've noticed is there's some overlap and there's some confusion. We use the term, ORV synonymous with a lot of things. Within the state statute, they actually break down ORVs into 3 different types. And I think that's where my heartburn comes from, because we just say ORVs. An ORV type 1 is basically a 4-wheeler. I don't know if most of you guys have probably been on 4-wheelers. County roads, dirt county roads, paved county roads, the speed limit is 55 and 65 miles an hour on those. I wouldn't feel comfortable on a 4-wheeler doing 55 or 65 miles an hour. Type 2 is a dirt bike, a 2-wheel dirt bike. Type 3 are what we think of, the Can-Ams, the Razor, stuff like that, 4-wheelered. Basically, you get 1,000. It's probably got more hip than the car that I first drove when I was growing up. So, you're thinking of that type of stuff, but all of those are combined into this resolution. It just says ORVs, and that's what Fremont and Sublette County have. That's what Lincoln County has, and that's what Uena County has. Fremont and Sublette County have blanketed all their roads. Lincoln and Uena County have selectively looked at their roads. Like I said, my main concern is just mixing traffic type and then allowing everybody out there to say, hey, yeah, we think this is a good idea to go ride a 4-wheeler or a dirt bike out on this road. I don't have as much heartburn with the side-by-sides because you have, you're protected. And I'll be the first one to say I hate when people use safety as a reason to not do something. But this is a big concern of mine. What we're saying, or what I'm saying on behalf of you guys, is that the county roads are safe for all this type of traffic to be on there. And when you look at engineering studies, and if you guys have ever been down in Denver or Salt Lake, and you're mixing vehicle traffic with bike lane traffic, with scooter traffic and all that stuff, the more different traffic types you have, the harder it is to move around. So, I'm here to put that out there. We can have a discussion about it. Ultimately, whatever you guys decide, we will enforce and go forward. But that's just kind of my 2 cents, and I'm open to any questions.
Thanks, Gene. Comments, questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Tolman.
I did get some constituent calls regarding in agricultural areas, like when you're lambing in the spring or something, if you have a lot of heavy extra traffic on an area, also would affect wildlife maybe. But I agree with you that it's a big safety issue. Plus, it's going to be a maintenance issue. Those things rip up the roads. So I'm not opposed to them, but I think we should designate certain routes that they could use more than others.
Yeah, I don't know on that. As far as maintenance goes, I don't think a 4-wheeler rips up the road any more than a 18-wheeler. That's good statistic, and you guys have heard this. Fun fact: 1 semi is 10,000 personal vehicles. That's how much damage 1 semi does on a road. So, I don't think a 4-wheeler adds that much more to it. And obviously, it's however the person uses the 4-wheeler or whatever they decide is the best solution. Obviously, if they're going off-road and they're jumping over our berms and doing stuff like that, yeah, they're going to cause more damage. But we're looking at what the majority of the population will do, and hopefully everybody will operate those in a safe and efficient manner.
Mr. Jones.
Just thanks, Gene, and I appreciate the conversations we had the other day. I think there were a lot of valid points brought up, and that was really, and Mr. De Leon kind of spearheaded that meeting, and I think that was great to get everything out in the open. But a few things that I think we need to remember is one is the use that we're talking about is currently there right this very minute. All of the use that would happen with either one of these resolutions is taking place right now. Really, all we're doing is enrolling roads in a program that will allow somebody to legally travel with the state registration sticker. So nothing changes other than being able to enroll roads for the state registration sticker. So nothing else changes. I mean, are there going to be some people in situations where they shouldn't be with those? Yeah, but they're there today. So nothing really changes except for the registration sticker. And also it wouldn't necessarily mean every road in Sweetwater County. For example, either one of these resolutions is really only for county roads. So that doesn't apply to City of Rock Springs or City of Green River, for example. So they would have to pass their own in order to enroll roads. So it really is only the county roads that we're talking about that are currently being used just like this.
Thanks, Commissioner. I see both sides, and I know we've been kind of discussing this. I know it's kind of a project of yours, so to speak, and initially that was my first thought was, obviously safety, but I know, like you said, you can currently go out and travel these roads, but is the idea, not so much that, I'm thinking all kinds of roads like County Road 1 or even County Road 6 that we just talked about. The idea more or less is just a connector road, right? It's a road that they can travel to get to the next destination. And then when we were talking about joining the different counties or communities, with being allowed to travel on those without a license, I think was the original intent. Is that accurate? Not necessarily to go cruising down Tipton Road just to see what's out there in the middle of the desert, but
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, that is what it was for, is just to connect, for sake of argument. Somebody from out of state shows up in Evanston, unloads their side-by-sides, rides over here, spends the night, has dinner, what have you, then maybe they go to Pinedale or they go to Lander or wherever, just to be able to connect the communities. I kind of doubt very seriously we're going to see an influx of side-by-sides all over every single road. And a lot of what SWAT is doing is to try and use it or build a sort of a trail system with existing roads and trails for people to follow. So you would, for the most part, you would follow a route from Evanston to here. Obviously, there are other roads out there you could get on, but for the most part, that's kind of what it's geared toward, is getting you from point A to point B.
okay.
Mr. Chairman,
go
if I
ahead,
may,
Gene.
I think one thing too is kind of describe the process is how I understand it, and Commissioner Jones, please butt in if I get it wrong. So what we do is by enrolling whatever roads we decide today, or you guys decide today, we send that into the Wyoming State Trails. They adopt those roads. And then what they do is they look with YDOT and say, hey, YDOT, we need some interconnection with, say, County Road 1. In order to get to Lyman, you got to go 414, or you do the Cedar Mountain BLM roads, or, whatever like that. And they say, hey, YDOT, can you adopt 414 and then 530 into this so people can travel from literally Lone Tree down 414, come up County Road 1 and get on 530 and come into Green River. Whether YDOT will do, I can see 414 perfectly, 530. I don't know, honestly, because they have their whole and rubric of how they actually look at roads.
Yeah, I agree. And I think if I understand it right, YDOT will enroll roads based on mostly our roads, because we would connect to state roads.
Mm-hmm.
So YDOT isn't necessarily going to enroll all roads. If none of our roads touch one of their roads, they're probably not going to enroll that particular road because it doesn't apply. So it's only the interconnection, again, essentially from community to community.
Any other feedback, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Slaughter?
I appreciate the opportunity to have this discussion. I'm an avid outdoors person. I have 3 vehicles that would qualify under this, so I am something that really definitely affects me. But in having conversations with our public works director, and just various other people, I have similar concerns to what he has raised with respect to this. I think safety is primarily my concern, and I appreciate what Commissioner Jones has said. You know, this is going on out there currently. People are doing it with license plates on the vehicles. The only difference would be they would not have license plates. They would have ORV stickers now. I think there are certain things that would benefit us with respect to that. I think if we were a part of the ORV trail system, it would potentially open some avenues for us to get additional funding for potentially signs. We have areas out there that many times I have been out on a side by side, and you come to the top where there is a poor sight line. And the last thing in the world we want to have happen is have a 1-ton truck coming the opposite direction as you're coming down that on a side by side or something of that nature. It's scary. I think getting some signage out there would be beneficial, and this might help us. But I think there are several other things that apply. The issue of the towns and how they potentially would approach this is an issue. If the intent is to have people come from Uena County to Green River, you know, we would have people who would have ORV stickers. And currently, if Green River has not adopted that, I don't know how their law enforcement would enforce someone not having a plate as they drove into town and something of that nature. So we would have to coordinate that. So I think that's something that we need to consider with this. So a lot of good things with respect to this. I think the other thing, and this is not nearly as big an issue with me, but it's something to be aware of. I talked yesterday with our treasurer's office just to kind of get a feel for how many of these vehicles we're currently registering. And currently in 2024, we had 2,284 of these vehicles that were registered in Sweetwater County. In 2023, we had 2,305. So an average of roughly 2,300 vehicles. That in revenue, that's almost $350,000 a year in revenue that's being done in registering these MPVs. To the county, we're talking probably $75,000. Is that significant? No, because I do believe we would see fiscal impacts from additional people coming in and spending money in the area. But I think it's something that we need to be aware of. I also believe from my prior position in life, one of the things that always concerned me was personal sales of these vehicles and collecting sales tax on those. So if Gene were to sell me a side-by-side in the past, if I want to use that, typically I would be forced to pay sales tax to get a license plate on that. So I would be forced to pay sales tax in that situation. And most people would then be paying sales tax. So I think it would eliminate a lot of those sales tax transactions on that if people could just go and get an ORV sticker. Once again, I'm not sure that it's significant, but it would be an impact that we need to talk about and be aware of as we're talking about this. The biggest concern for me is, you know, once again, safety. And while I appreciate the argument that they're currently out there doing that, I think if we approve this, we're basically putting a stamp of approval on it. And I just can't imagine what the situation would be like for me if we had one of those situations that I described where we had an oil field truck traveling 65 miles an hour hit a family that's in an ORV, and we had approved that without taking all precautions that we could to try and make sure that didn't happen. So it's, you know, lots of really good things about this, some things that are a little bit scary, and I just think it's something that having these discussions is very good, and we'll see what happens with respect to the full board and how we want to move forward with it.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jones.
Very valid points. I think the first thing is, as far as the safety goes, the state has decided that it's in statute. So we don't decide that. We don't dictate it. We don't change it. We follow the rules just like everybody else. So I think does that make everybody safe? No, but not any safer than all the rules about driving your car down the road. So people either follow them or they don't. As far as the loss of revenue, I really don't think we would see very much of that. And the reason is not every single road in the county or the state for that matter would be enrolled. So a license plate is still going to be required at least part of the time. Maybe not on every road, but it will be required part of the time. So I think I don't really see where we would lose hardly any. I mean, I'm sure possibly a handful we would lose a license plate fee on. probably a handful on sales tax, but it's going to be a handful just because the license plates are still going to be required in so many places. Just as an example, since we're in Green River, I don't know what they'll end up doing, but if they don't enroll all roads in Green River, for example, residential areas, it's up to them what they do. But if they would approve the main streets going through town so people can travel through and stay the night, but not the off the beaten path residential roads, then those would still require a license plate. So I really don't think we're going to lose much in the license plate aspect of it.
And I believe too, in our conversation, you were saying a lot of this is for, some of those, maybe Utah, Colorado, that what'd you tell me? They can't apply for a license plate?
There are some states who do not license these vehicles at all, period. So that's kind of where this whole thing started from originally, was how can we make this legal for people who come out from out of state to recreate in Wyoming, but they don't have a license plate. So the first thing they do when they unload off the trailer, they're breaking the law. So that's kind of where this whole thing originated, was to help bring tourism from out of state and the people who cannot comply with license plate requirements.
Thanks for the numbers, Rob. That was a question I had too. I just wasn't sure what impact that may have on the registration. Any other feedback, commissioners? Commissioner Richards?
What did you find out? What does, you went to county?
Go ahead.
You went to county,
They're enrolled. You went to,
but they
Like-
said they only designated certain roads is what they told me.
I'm not sure which ones they
They
designated.
didn't do a blanket thing. They just picked certain roads that connect.
Joanna and Lincoln didn't do a blanket. Fremont and Sublette did.
Yeah.
And I could get I'm not familiar enough with their roads. I mean, they numbered them and
Yeah, the blanket is a whole lot easier. It's easier for law enforcement. It's easier for the people using the roads and trails. Because, for example, somebody comes from Wisconsin, pick on Wisconsin. They don't know our roads and trails. They don't know where it's legal, where it's not. We have to have more signage. We have to have maps. Do we run out of maps? I mean, it's a whole lot easier for everybody if it's just a blanket. I could see maybe in some towns, an argument might be a little more valid for select roads. Just because, like I said, I don't know that everybody from Wisconsin has to be traveling through all of our neighborhoods. I don't see the purpose of it, but I think that for the county to do blanket, that helps, and that also helps the state then tie in roads to ours.
And that also brings up an interesting thing, because you recall, like in Green River, Flaming Gorge Way and Uinta are state highways within. So there's going to have to be some conversations between everybody. Yeah, we want this road, but it's a state. I think the main thing is, can we get people to where they want to go? And then, obviously every other jurisdiction is going to do what they need to. But like I said, my main concern is just the different types of traffic that we have. Having people unfamiliar with the road. I'm not saying that somebody's going to jump off and go down and look at oil field on Wamsutter North, but it's amazing how many people ride that loop road as part of either the Continental Divide Trail or something like that. And you'll pull over and go, what are you guys doing here? The first couple of years I was here, you run into 20 or 30 guys on bicycles. And they're like, man, there's a lot of traffic on this road. Well, the Continental Divide Trail says we can use these three. And I'm like, yeah, you should have used the one about 20 miles that way. Been a whole lot safer.
Several years ago, I ran across a guy at a gas station. He was on one of those two guys on the dual sport motorcycles, and they were traveling from Canada to Mexico, and their goal was to not touch pavement.
Yep. And the interesting thing is, I have done that. You can actually do that. Go up 191, head out to Wamsutter, and then make it to McKinnon, and only touch pavement in very certain sections when you go underneath the interstate.
Commissioner Richards?
I think there's an old saying, the perfect is the enemy of progress. And I think we could wordsmith this to death. We could spend hundreds of hours poring over every county road, trying to decide what works best. And I think if we just enroll all of our county roads, the people will tell us what works best. And I think going forward, we can, if we do this, we can enroll all of our county roads. And then if we identify problems in the future, we can carve those out. But I don't want to be the impediment to progress, because it doesn't do any good for Rock Springs and Green River to enroll their roads if nobody can get to them. I think this is the first step in our county to allow for this cross-state traffic. And if we don't do it, nobody else is going to do it in the county. So I think this is the first step. I support this, whether we do it with the short form or the long form. I think less is more. If we put too many words in it and we try to repeat too many state statutes, then they're just going to change those statutes, and then we have to change our resolution to match the state statutes. So I'm partial to the short form, but I'm in support of adopting this and getting it done.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any other feedback?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, one other question.
Slaughter?
Not having had the opportunity, when you had the discussions with the sheriff and with the county attorney's office, maybe could you kind of summarize what the positions were of those entities?
I can. The whole reason we did the long form is County Attorney Mosby thought that was better. No joking aside, Gross Nickel said, I only enforce what's on the books. So that's what we have to do. When he goes one way or the other, it makes it easier for us. He just jokingly said, yeah, I'm glad I won't be in the deposition when something happens on this one, because it'll be you. And he pointed at me. So little humor going back and forth, but I don't think anything else was really said. It was mostly a good conversation of what everybody's feeling was. But I do know the long form came in because County Attorney Mosby suggested that, basically.
So yeah, during the meeting, county attorney did want to explore the long form. I had a conversation with him after both forms were presented. I think there's an understanding, as Commissioner Jones identified, that this is something that the legislature did provide as a viable direction, something that they were trying to accomplish. So I think there's a understanding by the county attorney that this has been deemed by the legislature a viable option. There is, on the legal side of the equation, it is tough. I think, as Commissioner Richards identified, you're in a difficult position because you've got a chicken and egg kind of a situation, because there's two parties involved. You've got you as the local agency with jurisdiction who has the role of designating roads open. And then there's a state agency, the State Parks and Cultural Resources Department. Their role is to designate them as part of the trail system. So there's a two-part process there. And it's difficult to know which ones are in the trail system without them knowing that they are able to consider the totality of circumstances. So I think everybody shares the concerns anytime there's something new and it's a little bit different. But at the same time, I think there's an understanding of the legislative component there and the individual roles of the local agencies relative to the state agency.
If I could, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jones.
One last thing, and then I'll probably be able to stop. But the difference between the long form and the short and long version for me is, if we go with the long one, there's nothing wrong with that. But if statutes or what have you changes at some point, I'm gonna have to go back and change it. So, and I don't know that something's going to change. I suspect it will someday. I don't know what, but for example, there's $25,000 insurance requirement on there. As expensive as these things are getting and whatever else may come into play, I would think that number would go up someday. I do know when they were going through the legislation, I was told that There was also discussion about maybe a windshield requirement, which actually didn't make it in here, so that's not part of it, but maybe someday that would be a part of it. So if we go with the long form, excuse me, the short version, then we're complying with what's legal. And it also a suggestion was given, if we wanted to, we could also post all of that information from the long form on our website or wherever somebody wanted to. So the information's all out there. Everybody knows it. Everybody can see it. It's easy to find. We wouldn't have to do that, but we could. So.
I believe, both forms reference a handful of different state statutes, but there are, requirements from, I guess, WIDOT or the state level, with, I think, brake lights and turn signals and horns and, some of that street legal requirements that are built within those. I mean, I think that's something that is probably worth noting as well. But I also did want to mention, I believe I forwarded it to you all, but I received a letter from some of our local delegation from the state legislature in support of this, which came from Senators Jones, Kolb, Representatives JT Larson, Nemec, Stith, and Wiley. So I just wanted to share that from the legislature standpoint, I did get a letter in support of approving this. So with that, is there any other additional conversation relative to enrolling county roads, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
just one
Slaughter.
one other quick question, and I'm sure several of you can answer this, but in the short form, it doesn't give any restriction on liability insurance and what would have to be carried on them, where in our long form, as Commissioner Jones stated, it's listed at $25,000 that you would have to maintain. Is there something currently in Wyoming law to get that you have to have liability insurance? Is there a limit? Gene shaking his head.
It's 25, and that's included in 31-2701 through 707 in the short form. We just added that in there so everybody knew that stuck out.
Thank you.
All right, commissioners, I would ask what your pleasure is on these resolutions.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Jones.
would move to approve resolution number 24-04-P-01, which is the short form for enrolling resolution designating and enrolling certain the county roads as open to off-highway vehicle travel, and that would be all county roads.
We do have a motion to approve the short form resolution number 2404 PW01, designating and enrolling certain county roads as open to off-highway vehicle travel by Commissioner Jones. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richards. We're going to roll call this one. Start with Commissioner Slaughter.
It's a tough one, but I will say aye based on information that I heard from our testimony from our other commissioners.
Commissioner Jones.
Aye.
Commissioner West is aye. Commissioner Toman.
I'll say aye only because I believe in unlimited access to the roads in the county, but I believe there could be safety issues, but I will say aye, yes.
Commissioner Richards.
Aye.
Motion does pass 5-0 unanimously. Thanks to everyone for their work on this. I know it was a lot of discussion, a lot of background work, and something you've been wanting to get accomplished. So job well done to all.
Thank you, everybody.
Does anyone need a break, or do we want to move forward with the last item?
I'm good.
Go for it.
We will skip the break and move right along into item number 19, which is a request to restaff a vacant position in the land use department. And I believe we have Ashley with us today, along with Eric Bingham. And good afternoon to both of you.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Commissioners. So we are having a retirement in the land use office with Eric as the director. One of a very important position is being no longer being staffed right now. And so what we're hoping to do today is restaff this position. And along with it is an adjustment to the job description too, that you guys should have received in your packets.
Thank you, Ashley. Any questions for this request, commissioners? Definitely a very important position. Great individual who's currently serving that position, and I congratulate him on the upcoming retirement. all that may come along with them. If there's no other questions, I would ask what your pleasure is, commissioners.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Richards,
I'd move to approve the request to restaff the vacant position in the land use department.
do you have a motion to approve by Commissioner Richards? Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. Any discussion?
Does that include the fire position or is that going to be done later?
Currently as written, it does. In the attached job description, you'll see.
Okay, I
That-
missed that. Thank
yeah.
you.
You bet. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion's unanimous. Thanks, Ashley. With that, commissioners, we do have two items under executive session today. The first is a pre-decisional item and the second is personnel.
Mr. Chairman, I made a mistake. It is not pre-decisional. So the Jim Bridger comments are not pre-decisional. I thought they were. So you want to defer it to next time, put it on the public agenda?
Yes, so we will likely ratify those on the next consent agenda. Very good.
Thank you. Sorry, guys.
That's all right. So with that, I don't anticipate action being taken, but we do need to enter into executive to discuss personnel, so I'd entertain a motion accordingly.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. We're now in executive.